court did receive word from the clerk that a note had been passed in accordance with procedure by one of our jurors. That note does indicate that the juror would like to speak to the court regarding a potential issue. So at this point in time, I am going to be bringing that juror in. I want to make very clear the extent of the court media order, which is that there shall be no audio recording or visual recording or live streaming of any kind of jurors. So at this time, I am going to order that there be no media photographing or live streaming. testimony. I'm going to ask you to come into the witness box. The clerk is going to put you under oath at this time for purposes of a canvas. So while you were out, no, while you were out, we did discuss a canvas that's going to be done with the witness outside the presence of the jury. So I would put the witness under oath at this point in time for purposes of the canvas, and then we will put the witness under oath in the presence of the jury for purposes of the jury's determination of credibility in this case.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or solemnly and sincerely affirm, as the case may be, that the evidence you shall give concerning this case shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God, or upon penalty of perjury? If so, please say I do.
Yes.
Thank you. Please state your full name, spelling your last name, and address for the record, sir.
Jack Snyder, SNYDER, 1 Road North.
All right, thank you, Mr. Snyder. You may be seated. All right, so at this time I am going to ask the prosecution to please provide on the record an outline of the agreement that this witness has made with the state.
If I may approach the witnesses briefly.
Certainly. Has this been marked as identification? Okay.
Jack, I'm showing you what's marked as State's Exhibit 94 for identification. Are you familiar with State's 94?
I am.
Now, just briefly, Jack, I want to ask you questions about your understanding of this agreement with the state of Connecticut. Is it your understanding that in consideration for your testimony today and the cooperation during the investigative phase of this case, as well as any testimony today or any investigative grand jury or any other hearing, that the state of Connecticut agrees not to prosecute you for the incidences or any crime or crimes that occurred on May 14th of 2022?
Yes.
And is it also your understanding that you have to be truthful in your testimony, and if you are not truthful, that you could be prosecuted for any said crimes that occurred on that day?
Yes.
Is it also your understanding, based on this agreement, that if you commit any further crimes during the pendency of this case pursuant to this agreement, that you could also be prosecuted for the crimes that may have occurred on May 14th of 2022?
It is.
It is your understanding that the agreement extends until the final conclusion of this case, whether that be by plea, trial by jury, or a retrial on direct appeal. Is that your understanding?
It is.
And if you break this agreement in any way, that any statements that you gave before during your testimony, either today or at any other proceeding, could be used against you at a subsequent trial?
It is.
If you want to hit the maximum exposure.
Oh, that's right.
Thank you.
And with regards to the 4 individuals that were assaulted on May 14th of 2022, is it your understanding that you could have been exposed as a co-conspirator to an excess of 60 years in prison?
It is.
All right, thank you. All right, Attorney Smith, do you agree that the canvas and the outline adequately and clearly set forth the terms of the agreement that's been marked as an exhibit for identification purposes, and that would be 94?
For the most part, Your Honor, I would just ask that a question be asked as far as he's been questioned about being truthful and who it is that determines the truthfulness. May I inquire?
You can, yes.
As far as your expectation, your understanding is that in consideration for your testimony, you won't be prosecuted, correct?
Correct.
And it's your understanding that you will be afforded full immunity from any crimes that could possibly be charged, correct?
From May 14, 2022, correct?
And that you have to testify truthfully, right?
Correct.
And what is your understanding about who is going to determine whether or not you testified truthfully?
Just about what I experienced on May 14, 2022.
I understand, sir. Who is it that determines whether or not you testified truthfully?
I guess myself.
Well, the agreement's between you and the state, correct?
Correct.
Between you and the prosecutor, correct?
Correct.
And you would agree that the prosecutor is the person who can determine whether or not to charge you under this, correct?
Correct.
Would you agree then that it's the prosecutor who determines whether or not you testified truthfully?
I guess so.
That's your understanding, right? It's not whether I think you testified truthfully or whether anybody else thinks you testified truthfully, right? You didn't make this between me and you.
Correct.
Okay. So that's your understanding, is that you have to testify truthfully, the prosecutor makes that determination, and if so, you're going to have full immunity. Is that fair to say?
This was my truth. This is what I experienced on May 14th. and what I'm gonna say is what happened.
Okay. You understand that this agreement is between you and the state's attorney, right? And that your end of the bargain is that you have to testify truthfully, right?
Truthfully, yeah.
And that the prosecutor determines whether or not he thinks you broke this agreement by testifying truthfully or not truthfully, right?
Yes,
So it's the prosecutor who determines whether or not you've testified truthfully. Is that fair to say?
that's fair to say.
That's what you understand? Okay, nothing further, Your Honor. Thank you.
Any follow-up?
No, Your Honor, thank you.
Okay, all right, so at this point in time, I am going to just make one more inquiry of Attorney Smith. Attorney Smith, once again, is there any vagueness about this agreement that you have any concerns of at this point in time?
Not at this point in time, Your Honor, with the understanding that I'm able to cross-examine him about it when he's on cross-exam.
All right, certainly both parties are entitled to,
If I may approach the witness, Your Honor, there is the ID that.
of course. All right, so in keeping with formality and format, just with respect to the jury and what the jury has seen, I am going to ask the witness to leave the witness box. I'll ask the witness to be formally called for purposes of providing testimony, and we will put the witness under oath. And this was for the purposes of a canvas. So now I'm just going to ask that you exit the courtroom, and then you'll be escorted back in to provide testimony. Okay? Thank you very much. All right, thank you. At this time, I would ask the clerk to bring it up here. All right. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Jury, welcome back. Counsel, please stipulate to the presence of our jury last month.
The state will stipulate, Your Honor.
Defense stipulates, Your
All
Honor.
right, so before we continue with the evidence in this case, I just would like to address you, members of the jury. So you will notice that one of your fellow jurors is no longer with us. It's important that you not surmise or speculate as to why that juror is no longer seated on the jury panel. Okay, so I'm just going to direct you with respect to that. Please don't ask questions of fellow jurors or attempt to guess or speculate as to why that juror no longer sits on the case. Thank you so much. As such, if it's easier to view the following jurors who are seated in the last two chairs of the jury box, feel free to move over to your left as opposed to the right. Thank you. All right. So with that then, I just ask again, it appears that we now have all of our jury members. That includes 3 alternates as opposed to 4 alternates. So counsel, would you agree that we have the panel that we're moving forward with for today?
State will agree.
Defense would agree, Your Honor.
All right, thank you so much for that. So I would ask the state to please call its next witness.
The state would call Jack Snyder to the stand.
Mr. Snyder, please come on up. Take a step into the witness box and remain standing. The clerk is going to show her oath relative to your testimony.
Please raise your right hand, sir. Thank you. Do you solemnly swear or solemnly and sincerely affirm, as the case may be, that the evidence you shall give concerning this case shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God, or upon penalty of perjury. If so, please say I do. Thank you. Please state your full name, spelling your last name, and address for the record, sir.
Jack Snyder, SNYDER, 1 Willis Road, Norwalk, Connecticut.
Thank you.
You may be seated. Thank you.
Good morning, Jack.
Good morning.
Can you please tell the ladies and gentlemen jury how old you are?
19 years old.
And do you go to school?
I do.
Where do you go to school?
University of
And what are you studying?
Finance.
And do you know why you're here today?
I do.
And why are you here today?
Testify.
In relation to what?
The events that occurred on May 14th, 2022.
And have we met before in connection to this case?
Yeah.
And can you tell me a little bit about the circumstances surrounding how we initially met?
So I hired my attorney, and he went to the state of Connecticut, and they formed an agreement that I would provide full detail and truth about what happened on that day.
In consideration for your, what's your understanding with that agreement?
That I would not be prosecuted.
And is there any consequences if, based on what you tell us today?
If I were to lie about what happened or commit any more criminal charges, that I would be prosecuted or liable for prosecution.
May I approach the witness? Showing you what's marked as State's Exhibit 94 for identification purposes. Do you recognize State's 94?
I do.
And what is State's 94?
Our agreement.
And is this the agreement that you executed in the presence of your lawyer and your father on November 2nd, 2022?
It is.
Does this agreement encompass the agreement between you and the state of Connecticut concerning your testimony concerning the events of May 14th, 2022?
It is.
I would offer this as a full exhibit.
No objection, Your Honor.
All right, court will accept into evidence as a full exhibit states 94.
Now, Jack, I want to ask you, are you familiar with an individual by the name of Tyler De Silva?
I am.
How are you familiar with him?
He's a friend of mine.
And how did you become friends?
St. Joseph football.
And back on May 14th of 2022, how old were you?
16 years old.
And where were you in school?
I was a junior
Where?
at St. Joseph High School.
And did you go to school with Tyler De Silva?
I did.
And what sports were you playing then?
Football.
Are you familiar with an individual by the name of Raul Valle?
I am.
Does he have a nickname?
Yep.
And how are you familiar with him?
He was also a friend of mine.
And did he go to school with you at St. Joseph's High School?
Yep.
Is he present in the courtroom today?
He is.
What is he wearing?
A black suit.
And can you please point him out for the record? Your Honor, may the record reflect that the witness has identified the defendant in this case.
Court will allow the record to reflect that the witness has identified Mr. Valley. Thank you.
Now, I want to bring it back to the events of May 14th of 2022. There was a party at Lazy Brook that night. Prior to the party at Lazy Brook, tell us what you were doing.
I was driving to go pick up Leo
And what were you driving?
on the pilot.
And you said you were going, is this State's Exhibit 30? Is that a picture? What's that a picture of?
On the pilot.
Is that the car you were driving on May 14th of 2022? And you say you were going to pick up the defendant? Where were you going to pick him up?
His house.
Where's his house?
In Milford.
And what time of day would you say you were going to pick him up?
Late at night. Probably around 9 p.m., 10 p.m.
It was dark already?
Yeah.
And when you got to his house, where did you go after that?
I went to go pick up Tyler Silva.
And where does Tyler live?
In Milford, Connecticut as well.
When you picked Tyler up, was there any alcohol in the car?
At that time it wasn't until he got in the car.
Wasn't until who got in the car?
Tyler.
So Tyler brought alcohol in the car? What kind of things did he bring in the car?
I believe 2 bottles of vodka.
And when you left Tyler's house, where did you go?
I think we went straight to the party.
The party at Lazy Brook? Do you know whether or not you were invited to that party, you and your friends? And when you got there, around what time of night would you say you got there?
10 p.m., maybe a little bit later.
And when you got there, how many people would you say were at the party?
Probably 40 people, maybe.
And what kinds of things were going on at this party?
Just drinking and cup pong, stuff like that.
So when you say drinking alcohol?
You know,
Was alcohol being provided at the house, or was it bring your own?
like
Alcohol.
bring your own alcohol.
And when you got to the party, were you drinking?
I was.
Were you drinking prior to getting to the party?
I was.
And when you got to the party, how long were you withdrawn? Did there come a point in time where you were under the impression that you guys had to leave?
We were.
And when you were being told to leave, did you encounter two individuals that you were not familiar with at that party?
I was.
And can you tell us a little bit about how that happened?
So we were under the impression that we'd be able to stay at the party if we removed people who were also uninvited. So when these two individuals came, I didn't know who they were, and we were told to ask them to leave. So we went up to them and we just told them they weren't welcome there, that they needed to leave.
When you were at the party at Laserbrook, between the time you got there and the time those people came, how long a period of time was that?
Maybe 30 minutes, 45 minutes.
And when you got there, do you recall what you were wearing that night?
I believe a red sweatshirt.
Do you recall what the defendant was wearing that night?
I believe a jersey.
Show your State's Exhibit 53. Can you identify the people in State's 53?
I can.
And who's the person on the left in the red sweatshirt?
That's me.
And who's the person on the right?
That's Lito.
And is this what he was wearing on May 14th of 2022?
It is.
I noticed he's wearing a helmet and a neck pillow. Did he come to Laserbrook like that?
He did not.
Can you tell us the circumstances surrounding how that he came to be wearing those items
I think he just found them maybe in the mudroom or in the garage or something.
and just put them on? Did he put them on almost immediately when he got there?
I wouldn't say so. Maybe 30 minutes, 20 minutes after we got there.
So shortly before the two individuals that were also not invited, at least that you're aware of, arrived at the house?
That's correct.
So when you encountered these individuals, tell us about what happened during your interaction. Well, let me withdraw. Did you have an interaction with these two individuals when they came? Tell us about that.
So one of them was holding a case of beer, and we said that he'd be able to stay if we took his beer or he gave us his beer, and he didn't want to give us his beer. So the conversation started to get a little bit more aggressive, and we moved from the garage to the driveway, and that's when I took his beer from him.
Okay. You took his beer from him? And when you took his beer from him, did the, not what was said, but was there another, more interaction between you and the individual you took the beer from? And what was that like?
I think he squared up with me initially, and then I squared up with him.
So you were going to fight for the beer? Is that good, right? And do you recall how the fight started?
I do.
And how did the fight start?
After we squared up with each other, Lito came around and hit him in the back of the head, and then he lunged forward at me.
And how long did the fight last for?
30 seconds.
And do you recall, when he lunged at you, did you recall what happened after he lunged at you?
I fell to the floor.
And when you fell to the floor, do you recall if anybody else jumped in on the fight at that point in time?
I think Tyler and Lito were helping me out while I was on the floor. That was about it.
And how long did the fight last for?
30 seconds.
Jack, have you seen a video of this fight before? So Jack, is there a pointer up there? Can I? Right there. You have your monitor in front of you. I'm going to ask you if you can identify this person in the red. Do you know who that is?
That's me.
The person in the green that it appears that you are fighting, who's that?
That's the Shelton person that I was fighting.
Is that the kid you took the beer from?
Yes.
The kid here with the dark pants, the light blue shirt, do you know who that is? You can rewind it if you can. Can you rewind it a little bit?
I believe that's Lito.
That's Lito behind the kid from Shelton.
It is.
Can you go a little forward now, please? So we can see. Keep going. Right there. This person right here with what appears to be a light blue jersey and jeans, who's that?
That's Tyler.
recall the fight happening that way?
Yeah.
Now, the fight lasted about 30 seconds, you said. After the fight broke up, can you tell us what happened after that?
We all got up, and I think the Shelton kids went down the driveway and I think caught a ride home. And everyone from the party started dispersing outside, and the mother of the house kind of shut the party down at that point.
And when the mother shut the party down, where did you, what, if anything, were you guys planning to do at that point?
At that point, just go home, find somewhere else to go maybe until we got added to the group chat.
You were added to a group chat? Do you know who added you?
I don't know who added me.
What was the name of the group chat, do you recall?
Something along the lines of the basketball team.
And when you got added to this group chat, did you know why you got added to the group chat?
After looking at the text, I did.
And why do you believe you were added to the group chat?
Because the kids who were at that party were upset at what happened and wanted to meet somewhere to fight us.
So did you engage anybody in that group chat,
I might have sent a couple texts back
such as what?
along the lines of that we were going to fight them or they wanted to fight us, so I was going to come or something along the lines of that.
So you were willing to go meet them to fight? And at some point in time after the fight, did you get in your car?
Yeah.
And how long between the time the fight ended and the time you got in your car getting ready to leave? How long was that?
Maybe 5 minutes.
And did anybody else get in the car with you?
Yeah.
Who else got in the car with you?
It was Dimitri, Keenan, Will, Tyler, Lito, Mackenzie, and myself.
So you said Dimitri and Keenan. Who's Dimitri and Keenan?
Friends of ours.
Did you go to school with them? And that would be Dimitrios Arfanis and Keenan Frasick? And you said Will. Who's Will?
Will Singlewald.
And did you go to school with him at St. Joe's? And you said Mackenzie. Who's Mackenzie?
Mackenzie Traficante.
And did you go to school with her at St. Joe's? And what was the significance of Mackenzie Traficante at that moment in time?
She was dating Lito.
So it was 7 of you in the car?
It was.
Who drove the car? Do you recall who was in the front seat when you left?
Tyler.
And do you recall who was in your back seat?
Everyone else.
You don't recall where everybody was sitting at any particular time? When you left Lazy Brook, where did you guys head to?
So in the group chat, I think they were initially planning on meeting us at Trumbull High School. That was what I was under the impression of. So we went to Trumbull High and expected to see a couple people there.
And when you got to Trumbull High School, what did you guys do when you got there?
We pulled in the parking lot and there was a black BMW who apparently was one of, I believe, Keenan's friends or someone in the car knew them. 2 kids, but they weren't who we were looking for. So we kind of just stayed in the parking lot for about 10 minutes or so.
And when you were in the parking lot for 10 minutes, did you all get out of the car?
I don't believe so.
No one got out of the car maybe to go relieve themselves or walk someplace else, go talk to those kids in the BMW?
We were conversing through the windows on our cars.
And what kinds of things were you conversing about?
I think we were asking them to come along with us to go fight.
Okay, so that you made them aware of a potential fight that was going to happen? And were you having a conversation with the defendant when you were at Trumbull High School about what had occurred at Lazy Brook or this potential fight?
I think it was in conversation.
And what kinds of things were you guys talking about?
Just that we were going to go meet these kids and fight them.
And fight them? The intent was to fight them?
Yeah.
Now, you said you were there for about 10 minutes. After about 10 minutes, did you become aware that it was time to leave Trumbull High School? How did you become aware of that?
In the group chat, somebody sent us an address and told us to go over to that house, and that's where they'd be.
And did you in fact drive over to that house? You in the front seat driving? And who was in the front passenger seat?
Tyler, so
And when you got over there, do you recall what the house looked like when you got there?
I just knew there was a driveway on the right and a front lawn, a couple of bushes.
State's Exhibit 49 is State's Exhibit 49, does it look familiar to you?
It does.
Is that the house that you went to
It is.
14th of 2022?
Yes.
And do you recall, you're from Norwalk?
I am.
Do you recall your path of travel when you got to that house that night?
Yeah, it was from Adams.
It was from Adams? May approach right. Show you State's Exhibit 1. Now, when you say that it was from Adams, you're talking about this road here to the right of State's Exhibit 1? So you came in that way? And when you came in that way, what did you do? Did you drive by the house?
We parked there at the end of the street.
And when you say you parked at the end of the street, can you tell from State's Exhibit 49 where exactly you parked?
Yeah, right on the right to the end.
So right, if I put my finger, let me know if I'm in the right area, right around here?
Right there, yeah.
Okay, so if the record can reflect in State's 49, I'm at the bottom portion of the picture, just to the left of the trees that are on the property across the street from 43 Laurel Glen, near the intersection of Adams and Laurel Glen.
Or to allow the record to reflect that, thank you.
And when you got there, did you see anybody outside of the property at that point in time? And when you got there, did you or anybody from your group indicate to anybody in the group chat that you guys were at the house?
We did.
And when that happened, what occurred when that happened?
People started flowing out, probably from the backyard of the house. We saw them coming out the driveway, and they just head after head.
And when you say coming back from the back of the house, do you know exactly what portion of the house they came from?
I do not.
But they came down the driveway?
They did.
And when they came down the driveway, did they approach your car?
They did.
And when they approached your car, what was the lighting like out that night?
It was dark.
It was dark, but could you see in front of you?
I couldn't tell faces, but I could see the outlines of people.
Could you see, was there light from the house that was shining? Your headlights were on at some point, providing some light?
Yes.
When the individuals, did they approach your car?
They did.
When they approached your car, how close did they get to your car?
Right up. They did touch my car.
And were you familiar with anybody that approached your car at that moment in time?
I wasn't.
And did you have a conversation? Did you or anybody in the car have a conversation with anybody that approached your car that night?
We did.
What was the conversation initially like?
Very aggressive. We didn't expect to see so many people there, so we were kind of already kind of on our backs, and they surrounded the car. The windows were cracked, so we could talk to them through the car, and they were screaming, cursing, throwing stuff at the car, kicking the car, stuff like that.
They were-
Spitting in the car,
What were they doing? Spitting at the car?
spitting in the car,
Touching the car?
talking. Yeah.
Were you guys saying anything back to them?
I don't remember the conversation, but we were both going back and forth, kind of.
So were you arguing with them also?
I believe so, yes.
Okay. And how long would you say that occurred for?
30, 40 seconds. Maybe.
At some point in time after 30, 40 seconds, what did you do?
I kind of itched my car a little bit to clear the way, and then I drove off.
And when you drove off, where did you drive to?
I drove down the street about 5 houses down and stopped the car.
And when you stopped the car, what happened?
I let people out of the car.
Do you recall who got out of the car?
We have people in the back who wanted to get a ride home.
And why? Do you know why they wanted to ride home?
Because they didn't want to be involved in what just occurred back at the house.
And at some point in time down the road, and when you say down the road, are you talking, if you're looking at States 1, are you driving down towards Farmhouse Lane?
We are.
Okay, and do you recall where on Laurel Glen, or where on the road, I should say, did you stop the car?
Probably about 5 houses down.
Was it close to the intersection of Farmhouse and Laurel Glen?
Maybe that house right across from the farmhouse.
And when you got out, when you stopped the car, did at some point in time you have an interaction with anybody else that was not related to your car?
I believe we did.
And then can you tell us a little bit about that?
I think there was a couple kids running down the street.
And when they ran down the street, do you know what they did?
I think they were talking to people who exited my car.
Do you know who they were talking to?
I don't recall.
Were you still in the car at this point? And do you recall what, if anything, was anything thrown from your car or towards your car at that point?
I don't remember anything at the time. Towards my car.
When you were down the street and there were individuals out of your car, did you see anybody engage in any physical altercation down the road?
I did not.
Did you see anybody from that other group with any weapons on them at that point in time? At some point in time, did you drive the car down the road and turn back?
I did.
And when you did that, what did you do? Did you get in the car? Or get out of the car? What did you do?
I think we went out to check the damage on the car.
When you said we, who's we?
I think they were already down the street. I drove off, and then I came back around, and then I got out of the car, and we were all kind of outside the car.
So were you the only person in the car that drove down and came back?
I think so.
And when you came back, Mackenzie was out of the car already?
Yes.
Tyler,
Yes.
the defendant,
Yes.
Will,
Yes.
Keenan,
Yep.
Demetrius?
Yes.
And when you got back, you stopped the car? And when you got out of the car, what did you do when you were looking at your car?
Just observing.
What did you observe?
Dents and nicks on the car and something on the windshield.
Showing your state's 31, is this something that you saw on the night of May 14th, 2022?
It is.
By the way, what time would you say you got to 43 Laurel Glen on May 14th, 2022? You recall?
Maybe 11:30, 11.
So this defect in the windshield here, was that there prior to getting to Laurel Glen?
It was not.
So that happened when you got to Laurel Glen?
Good.
And when you were inspecting your car, tell us how you felt about what had just occurred to your car.
Kind of distraught and upset that my car was damaged and destroyed.
Was anybody else distraught and upset?
Yep.
Can you please explain how he was upset with regards to your car?
He initially saw the damage before I did. That was the last thing out of my car. He was just going around and, look what they did to your car. It's all destroyed, stuff around those lines.
Was he saying anything else with regards to, look, he just said, look what they did to your car. He didn't say anything else?
He was just distraught about what happened to my car.
Was he more upset than you?
Maybe visibly. I was quite upset.
Was he aggressive?
Yes.
And when he was acting in this way, what, if anything, happened during this inspection of your car?
He came back around and asked for the knife.
And when you say the knife, what do you mean?
I carried a pocket knife in the bottom of my center console, and it's always been there from when I got the car initially.
Why was it there?
Just fishing, and any really reason I would need a knife, it was there, to cut anything. Whatever, just at the bottom of my center console, a bunch of random items were along with it, but I knew it was there. And when they initially surrounded my car, I had taken it out and put it on my waist.
So you're talking about down in front of 43 Laurel Glen when your car started to get,
When they were rocking the car and
you took the knife out and put it on your waist?
put it on my waist.
And when you put it on your waist, did you open it up?
No.
Did you show it to anybody? And when you did that, why did you do that?
Just because I didn't expect so many people there, and after seeing what they were doing to my car and how they were talking, I just felt like it was in regard to my own safety. I just took it out and put it down just in case anything were to happen.
Now, after you left that initial interaction where you say you took the knife out and you put it on your lap and you went down the street, could you have just left the area and not gone back?
Could have.
But you didn't do that, right? And you say that the defendant asked you for the knife. Tell me, what kinds of things was he saying?
He just said, "Where's the knife? Give me the knife," something along those lines.
Did he say it in an aggressive manner?
Not really. He just kind of asked for it.
approach the witness, Your Honor.
Yes.
Jack, I'm showing you what's been marked as State's Exhibit 95 for identification purposes. You recognize State's 95.
I do.
And what is State's 95?
A copy of the knife.
Is this a picture of the knife that you sent me that is a duplicate of what the knife looked like from May 14th of 2022?
It is.
Is this a fair and accurate depiction of what the knife looked like that you possessed on May 14th?
It is.
I would offer this as a full exhibit.
Attorney Smith?
No objection.
All right, court will accept in evidence States 95 full exhibit. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Showing you States 95, it's now been marked as a full exhibit. Is this the knife that you had on in your vehicle on May 14th of 2022?
Yes.
Is this the knife that that the defendant was looking for on May 14th of 2022?
Yes.
Now, you indicated that you had this in your center console. I'm going to show you States 32. Picture of the inside of your car. And when you say your center console, are you indicating that this area here, or are you indicating the glove box?
No, the center console.
So I'm pointing to the left of States 32, the center console area of the car.
Yep.
And you had taken it out of this area, put it on your lap, and you initially got the 43 Laurel Glen. And when the defendant asked for the knife on May 14th of 22, tell us about what happened. Did you give it to him? What happened?
I did.
You gave him the knife? And when you gave him the knife, why did you do that?
I wasn't really thinking. I just gave it to him. He asked for it. I gave it to him.
Now, is there any conversation between you or anybody else just slightly before or after you give the defendant the knife?
Yeah, before.
And what are you guys talking about?
Tyler, maybe Lito, I think they knew people at the party. I didn't, but they wanted to go back because maybe they recognized a couple kids, and they were gonna go try and talk to him, calm it down, maybe just make peace with him. That's the whole plan.
And did you in fact get in your car?
We did.
Who got in your car?
I got in the driver's seat, and Lito got in the passenger, and Tyler in the back.
And did anybody else get in the car at that point in time?
No.
And when you got in the car, where did you go?
We drove up towards the lawn, front lawn.
When you say you drove up to the front lawn, States 49, can you show us in States 49 where you drove up?
Right to the right of the red bush.
This bush?
That bush, yep.
So you stopped here? And when you stopped there, what happened when you stopped there?
Tyler and Lito got out.
And where did they go?
They started walking towards the crowd of people that was on the lawn.
And when they did that, what did you do?
I was at my window down, and I was kind of watching them, just making sure they were okay.
And did you stay in that area?
I stayed right parallel to them the whole time.
Did you move the car up a little bit?
I crept up as they walked up.
And when you walked up, were you able to observe the interaction between Tyler and the defendant and the group from 43 Laurel Glen?
It was dark out, but I could see what was going on.
Now, prior to getting there, were you ever under the impression that were you told to leave and get out of here? Do you recall that?
I can't recall that.
Okay. Now, when you when Tyler and the defendant get out of the car and they're on the property here, they're on the property. What kinds of things was there any verbal interaction between the defendant and Tyler and the people from 43 Laurel Glen?
Yeah, they were conversing, but it didn't sound aggressive at first.
Show you States 4. Do you recall where your car was in States 4 when you noticed that they were conversing?
Like a little bit in between the bushes, maybe.
Would it be over here somewhere?
Yeah, middle of the street.
Middle of the street? Were there cars parked on the side of the street?
Yeah.
So you couldn't be near the curb, per se?
Well, I was kind of in the middle of the street just watching.
Okay. And you were in the driver's seat, car was on, you were looking over your shoulder?
Yep.
Through the window? Window was up?
It was down. It was down.
It was down? And you said that you heard talking back and forth?
Yeah.
It was normal at first? And how long would you say it was normal for?
10, 20 seconds.
And then at some point in time, did it escalate?
Good.
And can you tell us about that?
Someone came out from the crowd and punched Lito in the face.
And when that happened, what did you observe?
Just all out chaos at that point.
Did you observe where the defendant was after he got punched? Did you observe where Tyler was after that happened? At some point in time, do you stay in that area right as the fight's going on?
The whole time.
And at some point during the fight, does anybody come back to your car?
Yeah, initially.
And when he comes back to your car, does he get in the car?
No. I think he opened the door.
Okay.
He came up to the door.
And after he opened the door, what, if anything, did you observe him do next?
He just went back.
And when he went back, at some point in time, how long did he, from the time he left your car to go back, did he come back to the car at some point?
He came back, went back, and then came back. Yes.
How long did that take, do you think?
10, 15 seconds.
Did you see where he went when he left your car the first time, or the second time, I should say? You didn't see him if he went back into the fight? You just,
I think he went back into the fight. That's where we're at that.
and did you see him engage anybody in the fight at that point? At some point in time, does the fight end, or does
I think Lito got back in the car.
first?
Got back in first.
And where did he get in the car?
He got in the passenger seat.
The front passenger seat? Okay, and at some point in time, did Tyler come back to the car?
He came in after Lito. Lito got in the passenger seat and first, and he was like all distraught and said something along the lines of like, I think I just stabbed like 4 people or something like that, holding the knife.
He said he stabbed 4 people? He was holding the knife? And how soon after he said that did Tyler DeSilva get in the car?
Maybe 10 seconds after, I kind of crept up a little bit more.
So you started to move and then Tyler jumped in? Where did he jump in?
Passenger seat.
Was it on the passenger side or the driver's side?
Passenger side.
And when he got in the car, what did you do next?
I took off down the street towards Adams.
Okay, so if we're looking at States 1, you took off towards Adams when you got to Adams, so this way, just for the record, motioning from the left of the exhibit to the right towards Adams, right? And when you got to Adams, where did you go?
We took a left.
So you went down here?
We did.
And you hit the cul-de-sac?
We did.
What happened when you hit the cul-de-sac?
So as I was making going around the cul-de-sac, Lito told me to stop the car.
He told you to stop the car?
Yeah.
Do you recall where you stopped the car? You want to point it out?
Right there.
And so, did you park on the side of the cul-de-sac there?
Yeah.
And when you stopped the car, what, if anything, happened when you stopped the car?
Lito got out of the front passenger and threw the knife.
You saw him throw the knife?
I did.
Where did he throw the knife?
Directly into the woods area that was right there.
Show you States Exhibit 45, the cul-de-sac, Adams Road, you recall that?
Yeah, I do.
And does this look like, States 46, does this look like the wooded area where the knife was tossed?
Yes.
And after he threw the knife in the woods, what happened after that? Did he get back in the car?
He did.
And when he got back in the car, what, if anything, did he say?
I don't recall him saying anything when he got back.
So you got back in the car, and what did you do?
I took off and took a right back on the street, which is where I believe people were getting their rides.
So you drove back down Laurel Glen?
I did.
So you came back on States 1, you came back down this way? Took a right on Laurel Glen, drove and go past the house again?
Yep.
And you met people down here?
We did.
People that were originally in your car? Yep. And when you got down to that end of the street, what, if anything, happened when you got there?
I dropped Lito off. I think that's where he was getting picked up.
Do you know who he was getting picked up by?
I think Mackenzie's sister was coming to pick her and pick him up.
And When he, so he got out of the car at that point? And when he got out of the car, what happened when he got out of the car?
Tyler got in the front passenger, and he took off towards Tyler's house.
And when you took off, did you know how to get home from where you were?
I used Google Maps to get to Tyler's.
And you drove down to Tyler's house? And when you got to Tyler's house, did you have, what happened when you got to Tyler's house?
We met Owen Silva, Tyler's cousin. He was outside.
And were you talking with Owen DeSilva? Did you tell him what happened? Did you and Tyler DeSilva, not what you guys said, but did you have a conversation with Tyler on the way from Laurel Glen to Milford when you talked to Owen DeSilva?
Good.
And what kinds of things were you saying to Tyler DeSilva?
I kind of told him that Lito said something like, "Oh my God, I think I stabbed people" or something. We were talking about his injuries because Tyler was all bloodied up and in bad condition.
How did Lito appear? Did you get a good look at Lito?
He was also pretty bloodied up. They were both kind of beat up.
Yeah. And did you say anything else when you were talking, when you were going to Milford?
The conversation was kind of along the lines of like, how are we going to get back at these people? Because like, at the time we had no idea the severity of the situation. Like when Lito said like I stabbed people, I'm thinking like he's on the ground and maybe hit someone in the leg or something and got out of it and got back in my car. So it was kind of like the tension was kind of still there. And in the group chat, kids were still texting in the group chat. So it was kind of just still kind of aggressive between the groups. So we were just kind of talking about like how we're going to get back at these guys.
And you didn't understand the severity of it?
I just thought we was going to jump or something and we were going home.
And did you text anything in the group chat after the incident at 43 Laurel Glen?
I did.
What did you text?
I guess said something along the lines of like, enjoy the hospital visit or something.
And at some point in time, you talked to Owen DeSilva. Do you stay in Milford that night, or do you leave?
I go
And you go to home, and home back to Norwalk? And when you go back to Norwalk, when you get home, do you have any conversation with anybody when you get home?
Yeah, my father.
And did you tell your father what had happened?
I did.
And not what he said to you, but what was his appearance to you when you told him what had happened?
He kind of looked shocked and kind of gave me the impression that this was going to be something more serious than I kind of thought it was.
At some point in time, did you have another conversation with another family member?
I did.
Who did you have a conversation with?
My cousin,
And who's your cousin?
Mike Mario.
And you talked about what had happened at 43 Laurel Glen? And at some point in time, were you contacted by the Shelton Police Department in any way? Was it, how close in time was it from the time of the incident to the time Shelton Police Department contacted you?
I think it was that morning.
And did you talk to the police at that point in time?
My father picked the phone up and just told them that we were hiring an attorney.
So you hired a lawyer at that point? And again, that was May 15th of 2022?
I believe so.
And at some point in time, do you recall in consulting with your lawyer and your father or your parents, do you recall wanting to meet with the state's attorney's office with regards, or the Shelton Police Department and the state's attorney's office with regards to this incident?
Yep.
And is that when your lawyer approached the state's attorney's office to give us potential information about this case? In particular, where the knife was discarded? And is the first time that you spoke to law enforcement regarding this case, was that on November 2nd of 2022?
I believe so.
And did you give a subsequent interview with law enforcement to clarify anything that may have been misunderstood?
I did.
May I have a moment, Your Honor? I have no further questions, Your Honor. Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Snyder. You and I have never met before. Never talked about this case before. Well, so let's talk a little bit about it now. You told us that the evening began with you picking up Mr. Valle and Mr. De Silva in your Honda Pilot that evening sometime, correct?
Yes.
And then you took everybody over to 5 Lazy Brook Road, correct?
Yes.
And that's where you had been invited over to the Lifers' house, right?
No.
No.
We weren't invited. I think we just got word that there was a party there.
Okay. Who'd you get that word from?
I can't remember who told us to go, but we just eventually went.
Okay. You got there and you were there for 1 or 2 hours?
That sounds right.
Did you see the Lifers when you were there?
We did.
You knew Madigan from school?
I did.
And you knew Austin from school? Did you see Austin that evening?
I think briefly I did, yeah.
You said there were maybe 40 people there when you got there?
I believe so.
You'd been drinking at the party and beforehand,
Yes.
but you didn't bring the alcohol. That was Tyler De Silva who brought the alcohol.
Yes.
And then 2 individuals that you didn't know arrived and you told them that they had to leave, right? Did one of those individuals, the one holding the case of beer, did he give you a beer?
I can't remember giving me a beer now.
Did he give Mr. Valle a beer?
I can't remember that.
Did he seem to you like he was trying to make friends with you
Initially, maybe at the end of the party, yeah.
at the end of the party?
No, to get into the party.
To get into the party. Gotcha. And you told him that he needed to give you that beer.
Yes.
A dispute broke out about whether or not you were going to actually get that beer from him, correct?
Yeah, it was about like him giving us the beer, and then in turn he'd be able to stay at the party.
Well, you say giving us the beer. You were the one asking for the beer, right?
Yeah,
You were the one who was talking with this individual, right?
we all were.
Okay. Tyler De Silva was talking to him?
We all were, yeah. Me, Alito, and Tyler.
Okay. And yet, the person that squares up, that's you, right?
Yes.
Because you're the person who took the beer from him, right? So would you agree that you were the person that was having the most direct interaction with Mr. Hines?
I would.
And you later come to find out that that person was Ryan Hines?
Yes.
And you said that you moved to the driveway, and that's where you squared up and you had the fight, right? And you guys were moving around in that course of that fight?
We were.
The video that we watched, that doesn't catch the initial stages of that fight, does it?
I believe it does. I don't think the fight started until into that video.
Okay, that catches the very beginning of that fight?
It does.
So you guys had not begun fighting until you got out into the driveway?
Yes. Yes.
And people sort of formed a circle around, right? There were some folks watching. And it was just you and Mr. Hines that were going to have this square off.
Yep.
And you said Mr. Valle came around and hit him in the back of the head, right? And that he lunged at you,
Ryan Hines did, yeah.
or you lunged at him.
No, Ryan Hines lunged at me.
Sorry. So Ryan lunges at you. You'd already taken a punch at Mr. Hines at that point.
I know.
He tackles you to the ground. He's on top of you.
Yes.
A group descends and tries to break that thing up, right? At some point, you all get up and you go your separate ways.
Yeah.
The kids from Shelton High that had just been involved with the fight, they walk down the driveway and get in a car somewhere?
I did.
Did you see them do that?
I did.
And where was your car parked?
To the left. Looking down the driveway, it was off to the left.
Okay, so nearby. And you, how long before you got in your car and left?
5-10 minutes, maybe.
Did you see at any point Mrs. Leifer come out, shut the party down, and give the beer back to Mr. Hines?
I remember her coming out. I don't remember her giving back the beer.
Okay. In any event, you didn't have the beer anymore at that point, correct? He said after that the plan was to go home, right?
It was.
When you say go home, to your own home?
No, I was gonna be sleeping out that night.
Where were you going to be sleeping that night?
Most likely Tyler's.
Tyler DeSilva's. And as far as Tyler DeSilva, that was a close friend of yours? Do you remain close friends? And would you say you were closer with Mr. DeSilva than you were with Mr. Valley?
I would. I think that's fair to say.
Okay. You weren't going to sleep at Mr. Valley's house that night.
It was possible, but I think the plan was to sleep at Tyler's.
Okay.
That's where we frequently slept out at.
And you said at some point you got added to this basketball group chat, right? Correct?
Yes, correct.
Sorry, we've got the court reporter here, and you have to say out loud something she can't get. Okay. You didn't create that group chat. Mr. Valley didn't create that group chat. Mr. DeSilva didn't create that group chat. But you got added to it. Okay. When you got added to it, was Mr. Valley also added to it at that same time?
I'm not sure if he was at it, but I know a couple of us were. I'm not sure exactly who, but we were all kind of talking about it.
Okay. Who else was on that group chat?
There were probably a good 20 people in it, and about probably 3 or 4 of us in it. So it was majority kids that I wasn't aware of. I didn't know.
So when you were looking at that group chat, you couldn't see the names of the folks that you didn't know. You just saw numbers. Is that fair?
Yep.
But you quickly got an understanding of who those unknown numbers were, right? And you understood that that was the kids, at least some of the kids and kids who were related to the kids that you had just gotten into the fight with, right?
Yep.
Because you said that there was, your understanding based on what they were texting was that they wanted you to fight with them, right? And you sent text back indicating you were willing to do that, right? And so you got back in the car with Demetrius, Keenan, Will, Tyler DeSilva, Raul, and Mackenzie Trafficante. And did they all know that you were getting in the car to go fight these kids?
Yeah, we made it pretty apparent that people who were going to be in my car were going to go with us to go fight.
So Mackenzie Trafficante knew that you were going in the car to go fight?
Objection as to what she knew.
Sustained.
When you say that people in the car knew that you were going to go fight, what led you to believe that they knew that?
I kind of went up, and after we were in the group chat, I was like, I can't remember if we were already in the car or driving, but I said, if you're in the car or you're getting in my car, we're going to go fight these people. And I think the people in my car agreed they were going with us.
Demetrius?
Yep.
Keenan?
Yep.
Will Sinjwal?
Yep.
Tyler DeSilva?
Yep.
Raul Valle?
Yep.
Mackenzie Trafficante?
Yep. I believe so, yeah.
You told us you were driving and that Tyler DeSilva was the passenger at this point, right?
Yep.
And so you got in the car and you went over to Trumbull High School.
We did.
And there you said that you were expecting to find the kids who were using this basketball group chat to invite you to fight, right? They weren't there.
They were not.
You said there was a black BMW there?
Black or blue? I think it was a dark colored.
Could it, you don't think it was a white BMW?
I don't think so. I don't remember being a white room.
Okay. It was dark.
I think so, yeah.
As far as the time of day, it was dark that night.
Yes.
And the people in that BMW, those were people that your group knew, right?
I didn't. I believe someone in my car did that.
Okay. And you said you were there for 10 minutes, nobody got out of the car.
I don't remember that. I didn't get out of the car.
What were you doing in the car?
On my phone, probably.
Music on?
Most likely.
Car running?
Yep.
7 of you in the car talking through the window, you told us, to the other vehicle. Was there another vehicle there with a group of girls in it?
I don't remember that.
And then you said while you were sitting there on this group chat text, somebody, not from your group, sends the address 43 Laurel Glen Drive, right? And it was your understanding that that was now where these kids wanted you to come in order to have a fight. And you drove there because you wanted to have a fight.
Yes.
Did you know these kids?
I didn't.
And you didn't even know where this was, right? You're from Norwalk. And so you get this address there, 43 Laurel Glen Drive. You got 6 other people in the car. You don't even know where it is. You don't even know who these kids are. And you decide you're going to drive everybody over there.
Well, I didn't know it was a party. I'm assuming that that maybe the kid who was just in a scuffle with us, he maybe had a couple friends and wanted to settle it or something. So that's why we drove over to go fight them.
You're responsible when you're driving for the people that are in that vehicle, right?
Yes.
You thought that was a good idea to drive all those folks over there to 43 Laurel Glen Drive?
It was a mutual understanding.
You thought it was a good idea?
I wasn't thinking about the potential consequences.
You were 16 years old, right?
I was.
And you didn't think when you got there that there were going to be 30 or 40 people, did you?
Absolutely not.
And you didn't know where it was. You had to GPS it, right?
Yes.
And it was a kind of confusing layout when you got there because there's through roads and cul-de-sacs, right? You didn't know which one was leading to which end, right? Could have been a dead end, could have been a through street, but you didn't know. And you say you didn't drive by the house when you first got there. You went straight there and you parked the car to the right, right? When you got there, there were people already out in the yard?
No.
Nobody was out in the yard. Okay. And you indicated to the folks in the group chat, we're here.
Yep.
And then people started coming out of the house, right?
Yes.
One person came out of the house, right?
Yes.
Quickly followed by a second person, right?
Yes.
Then a third person, right?
Yes.
Then a fourth person, right?
Yes.
A fifth, a sixth, a seventh, an eighth, right?
Yes.
At that point, you're outnumbered now, right?
Yes.
A ninth, a 10th, an 11th, a 12th, right?
Yes.
Now what are you starting to think in that car?
We're not going to be fighting anymore.
You're not going to be fighting anymore? Why not?
It didn't seem sensible at the time. It wasn't what we expected to see when we initially arrived, or were going to arrive.
You weren't in control of that situation at that point, were you?
No.
Drove all those folks over there, parked them. Wasn't what you expected, was it? It was getting scary, wasn't it?
It was.
It was getting terrifying, wasn't it?
It was.
You worried about what was going to happen now, I bet.
It was.
How many people do you think ultimately came out of that car, out of that house?
Maybe 30, maybe a little bit more.
All came over to your car.
Yes.
7 of you in there and 30 on the outside, right?
Yes.
Surrounding the vehicle, right?
Yes.
And at first they came up to the driver's side, some of them, didn't they?
They did.
And you had your window down?
I had it cracked, I believe.
Cracked. Didn't want to put it the whole way down at that point, right? And people started coming up and started talking to you through the window, right?
Yes.
And you say at first that was peaceful.
I don't think it was peaceful at first when they all kind of walked up. Everyone was kind of screaming. I think I heard something along the lines of like, "Where's the kid who did this to me?" I think it was someone from the party from before.
That was Ryan Hines, right?
It could have been. I didn't see his face.
He spit at you.
Yes.
Did it make it into the car or just on the car?
I don't think it hit me, but I think it made it into the car.
There's people in front of the car.
There is.
There's people on both sides of the car.
It's true.
There's people behind the car.
True.
Some of those people get on the car.
That's possible. I don't remember anybody getting on top of the car.
Do you remember the car rocking?
Yeah.
Do Do you recall if somebody was on the back bumper jumping up and down?
It's possible, but I wasn't.
I'm gonna overrule it. Thank you.
I wasn't really looking at the back of my car. I was kind of focused on what was going on in my area.
Why didn't you just drive away?
I did eventually, but I didn't want to, run anybody over. So I kind of started itching my car out a little bit, and then people started eventually making way. Yeah,
You
fine.
couldn't just pull away, right? If you just pulled away, you'd have hit somebody who was standing directly in front of the car, right? You'd hit somebody who was on either side of you, possibly, right? There was lights on the street, but it was dark, right?
Yeah.
About 11 o'clock or so. Misty, kind of rainy that evening.
Sounds about right.
People inside your car were terrified, weren't they?
Objection as to what other people were.
Sustained.
What was the demeanor from the people inside your car? What did that indicate to you?
They wanted to go home.
They didn't want to be there anymore, right? They were terrified, right?
Most likely, yeah.
And you were thinking to yourself, oh my God, what have I gotten these folks into, right?
Yeah.
I brought all these people here. I'm the driver of this vehicle. I'm the one who put us here, right?
I think that's fair that I drove them there. Yeah.
Well, nobody could reach over and you wouldn't let them take the car from you and say, let me drive now, right?
Right, but I didn't drive anyone somewhere where they didn't want to be, and then I dropped them off at the end of the street, and they wanted to go home.
Because Mackenzie Traficante wanted to go and get in a fight.
I think everyone was just kind of under the impression that they knew we were going to go meet a couple of kids to fight. No one really expected 30 people to walk out of the house.
Keenan Frasick knew that you were going to go get into a fight.
Objection as to what Keenan.
Sustained.
Something about Keenan's demeanor indicated to you that he wanted to go along for a fight.
I think I made it pretty apparent before we got in the car that that's what we were going to do.
Something about Demetrius Arphanis' demeanor indicated to you that he wanted to go get into a fight.
Again, I think I told the people that getting into my car, that's what we were planning on doing.
You know Keenan?
I did.
How close were you to Keenan?
We weren't super close, but we were teammates.
Teammates on the football team. Demetrius Arphanis, was he a teammate on the football team?
Yes, it was.
Are they starters?
I don't believe at the time of the incident, no.
How many people were on the driver's side of the car?
Initially, when we were at the end of the street,
When you're right there parked in front of the house, when you first stopped at the house?
there was a crowd of people. I don't really know how many.
Too many to count.
Yeah,
How many people were on the passenger side?
it was kind of a big crowd all around the car.
And you said they were touching the car, right?
Yeah.
Hands on the vehicle?
Objection asked and answered.
Sustained.
Were they punching the car?
Objection asked and answered.
I'll allow it.
I believe so. Throwing stuff at the car, kicking the car, stuff like that.
At some point, the windshield gets smashed while you were there in front of the house, while these people are surrounding the vehicle. Are people inside your car saying anything?
Objection as to what they said.
I asked, are they saying anything?
I'm going to overrule the objection at this point, just yes or no, relative to the question. Please ask the question again.
Are people in your car at this point saying anything?
Yes.
And did that indicate to you that they were scared?
Yeah, I think we all were.
In fact, you were so scared, you reached into the center console where you knew you kept a pocket knife, right?
That's true.
And you did that because you were so scared, you thought, I might need to defend myself, right? You thought somebody might smash this window, right? They just smashed the windshield. What's going to stop them from smashing my window, right? and I'm stuck here in this vehicle, can't move forward because there's people surrounding it, right? And you thought, what am I gonna do if people reach into this vehicle after smashing my window and pull me out of it, right? So you reached in and you grabbed the knife out, right? And you told us you put it on your waist. Did you mean you put it in your lap?
Yeah, that's what I meant.
Okay, because you didn't like take it and use the clip to put it on your belt or something, right? You didn't put it in your pocket, did you? You didn't think, well, it's right here in the center console. If I need it, I can get it out at that point, right?
It was kind of buried under a bunch of random wires and stuff like that.
You didn't know what these people surrounding the car were going to do, did you? But you were scared enough to think that you needed that knife, right?
Of course.
Mr. Valley didn't know about that knife, did he?
Objection as to what Mr. Valley.
Sustained.
Had you ever told Mr. Valley about that knife?
Never came up in conversation.
Never came up in conversation. You had never told him about it, did you?
No, there wouldn't have been a reason to.
So as far as you knew, he had no knowledge that that knife was there.
Objection as to what he knew.
Sustained.
And you were shown a picture of what you say is a copy of that knife, right? You said, though, that that knife that you had in the car had been in that vehicle since it was given down to you by your brother, right?
It was just in the family, that car. It's always been in the family.
And the knife had been in there as well, right?
And that's why I kept it for years, yeah.
So it wasn't a brand new shiny knife that you got for that purpose alone that day, was it? It was a tool that you kept there. You said for fishing?
Yeah, for anything you'd really need a knife for, it was just there.
Were you raised as somebody who was told, you know, it's useful, helpful to have a pocket knife when you need one?
I just think a knife is useful in a lot of different, random scenarios in life, just something to have, yes.
At some point, the situation became so terrifying inside that vehicle that despite the fact that there were people in front of it who might get hurt if you were moving, you thought that's what you needed to do to protect yourself and to protect the people in the car, right?
Was to grab the knife.
Was to, well, you already had the knife, but now you thought, I've got to move this vehicle. Even if these people in front are going to get hurt, we might get hurt if I don't, right? And so you move the vehicle forward. People backed off of it, or they stayed off, they fell to the side? What happened?
As I started hitching the car forward, revving it and pushing it forward, people started dispersing a little bit, so it made a path for us to just kind of speed right off.
You saw a path and you took it. Car took off down the street at a high rate of speed, right?
Yeah.
And then you drove back and forth, up and down the street, right?
I don't remember that.
Throwing things out the window at this group, right?
I don't remember that happening.
That didn't happen, did it? You drove down, some people got out of the car around that area where you showed us on Exhibit 1, right? And in fact, do you recall that people from the party were now chasing the vehicle down the street as you were driving away?
Initially, yeah.
In fact, when you let these folks out, or when they got out of the car when it first stopped, a group of these Shelton kids were coming down chasing them, right?
I think so, yeah.
And you could see that at least in your rear view mirror, could you not? And then you drove the car off up ahead, correct? And at that point, you were alone in the vehicle?
I think so, yeah.
And you drove up and you went and you turned down Farmhouse Lane, right?
No, I think I went down straight.
Down to the end of Laurel Glen?
Yeah. The dead end, I think it is.
Okay. We can't see that dead end on Exhibit 1, can we, behind you?
No, I don't.
It extends a further way down there, right? So you lost sight of the people that you had just dropped off at some point, did you not? You couldn't see them anymore because you had driven down to the end of the street, right? And you thought, oh my God, I just left all these folks at the street that I just drove them to with this crowd of people that just attacked the car, right? You were scared for them at that point, were you not?
I turned around and I went back.
You went back even though you were scared?
Yeah.
What did you think was going to happen if you didn't go back?
That calls for speculation, no objection to that.
So,
You were worried if you didn't go back that your friends were going to get hurt, weren't you?
Yeah. That's fair to say.
Um, uh, Now, when you got back, can you show us again on Exhibit 1 where you stopped the vehicle when you came back to your friends after going down to the end of Laurel Glen? Near the intersection of Laurel Glen and Farmhouse? Okay. And where at that point, and when you stopped the car, you got out at that point, right? And where at that point was Keenan Frasick?
I believe on the curb, I think.
Did he come over to the vehicle?
The vehicle was kind of right up to it. I don't remember him walking like up on top of the vehicle, but he was around, I guess.
Did you talk to him, or did he stay on the curb?
I don't remember any conversation I had with Keenan, but
And did Mackenzie Trafficanti come up to the car, or did she stay on the curb?
I don't remember if Mackenzie was up on the curb. I think she was on the curb. I don't remember any conversation with her either, of her coming up.
Will Sinjwald, did he stay on the curb? Demetrios Arfanis, did he stay on the curb?
So yeah, they were all kind of just right there.
And so at the vehicle then, near the intersection of Laurel Glen and Farmhouse Lane, is yourself, Mr. Valley, and Tyler DeSilva?
Not yet in the car, but yeah, we were all kind of there.
Inspecting the car, you told us.
Yeah, I got out and I started looking around.
And do you remember some Shelton High kids coming up and having an interaction with you?
I don't remember any conversation I had with them. I remember that the day that they were there, or at least around the area. Then I got back in the car.
How close were you to Mr. Valley?
Around the car. I was inside of it, so.
You didn't get out of the car, or you got back in the car?
I got back in the car.
Okay. But do you know Tyler Rich?
I don't.
Do you know Ricky or Enrico Fiola?
I heard about him prior to the incident. I didn't know him.
Did you see either Mr. Rich or Mr. Fiola down there at the vehicle when you were at Farmhouse Lane and Laurel Glen Drive?
I think they were in the area. I don't remember. I don't recall seeing them. I don't remember that.
Okay. And you've told us that there was some discussion down at the car about the damage, right?
Yeah.
You told us you were upset about the damage, right?
I was. Yeah, I was going around looking at the damage on my car.
You told us you were distraught about the damage, right?
How would I explain this to my parents, stuff like that, thinking about damage, insurance, all that.
And you didn't know any of these kids at 43 Laurel Glen Drive.
I didn't know.
But you knew that the kid that you'd gotten in the fight with at 5 Lazy Brook was there at that party at 43 Laurel Glen Drive, right?
Yeah, I didn't see him particularly, but I kind of got the impression he was there from what they were kind of screaming and stuff, and why we were there in the first place.
And you told us that there was discussion about, look what they did to your car, right?
Yes.
You were visibly upset.
Yeah.
Mr. Valley, you said, was visibly upset.
Yeah.
Mr. DeSilva also visibly upset.
I think everyone kind of was. We were kind of all kind of in a state of shock about what just happened.
While you're standing there by the car, and these Shelton High kids, how far away were they?
I don't remember where they were.
Further down towards the house?
I would assume so.
Not close enough that you could say to them, hey, what'd you guys do to my car?
I don't remember having any conversation with them when they were there.
They were too far away to have a conversation with, right? They didn't approach you guys and say, hey, let's squash this beef right now, did they?
Not me, no.
Did they approach anybody in your group?
When I drove off, I don't know. I wasn't really there.
Okay. When you drove off, though, was before what you've just now described, with everybody being at the car and inspecting it for damage, right? So when you're at the car inspecting it for damage, you didn't see any of these Shelton High kids come down and have a conversation with you guys as you're inspecting the car, did you?
I didn't have any conversation there.
And then you told us at some point you understood that Tyler DeSilva wanted to go back to 43 Laurel Glen Drive, right? Because he knew, as far as you understood it, some of the kids there.
Right.
You live in Norwalk, right?
Right.
Is that where you grew up? So you're a lifelong Norwalk resident? And Tyler DeSilva is not from Norwalk, right? He was living in Milford at this time, but he had grown up in Shelton for some part of his life, had he not?
I believe so. Yeah.
And he knew some of these kids at the Shelton party.
Right.
And he told you,
Objection is what he told.
your understanding was that he knew some of these kids at the Shelton party, and he wanted to go back and make peace.
Right. His family, I guess, knew a lot of their families. So that was the whole purpose.
And at this point, you could have just left the area, right?
Could have.
Could have hopped in the car, said, everybody, let's go home. This is a bad idea, right?
Yeah.
You were 16 at the time.
I was.
How long had you been driving?
Maybe 8 months, 9 months.
Were you supposed to have these kids in your car?
I was not.
And then Mr. Valley came up to you and he said, where's the knife? Give me the knife, right?
Yeah.
Like that aggressively?
I wouldn't say it was that aggressive, but it was just asking for it.
He was just like, hey, where's that knife that you had, right?
I don't think it was that aggressive, no.
He wasn't that aggressive about it.
It was aggressive, but it wasn't it wasn't what you just presented.
And he didn't want something else at that point, did he?
Just a knife. He didn't want anything else, no.
He didn't indicate to you, hey, let's all grab some weapons and go back there, right? He didn't say, I want that knife so that, let's go back and get our revenge, right? In fact, you understood from his demeanor that he was also scared, right?
More upset, I presume.
You presume.
He was a little bit more angry in his demeanor.
You were still scared.
I was.
You thought these kids might come back down the street again, right?
Not necessarily.
That didn't cross your mind?
Well, I knew I had the car, so if anything, we could have just driven out of there.
But you didn't.
And
Tyler DeSilva was adamant that he wanted to go back and make peace.
I'm going to object as to what Tyler Silva said.
Sustained.
Tyler DeSilva was adamant that he wanted to go back and make peace, correct?
Objection, that calls for hearsay.
Sustained.
You understood that Tyler DeSilva wanted to go back and make peace?
yeah, in Manlito.
You understand?
People there.
Mr. Valley knew people there?
Impression that, both of them at the time knew people from Shelton since they were from Milford.
Okay. So you got back in the driver's seat, right?
Yeah.
You saw Mr. Valley go digging through the console to get the knife, right? You saw Mr. Valley go digging through the glove box to get the knife, right? You saw him tearing up the car to try and find the knife, right? You didn't see any of that, did you?
No.
You gave it to him?
When he asked for it.
He opened the blade to inspect it, right?
No.
Took that knife and he got it ready, right?
No.
Took that knife that you gave him and he put it in his pocket, right?
I believe so. I don't remember where he put it. He didn't open it.
And you understood or felt like you needed to take Mr. De Silva back to 43 Laurel Glen Drive?
I don't understand the question. Can you repeat that?
You didn't say, I'm not taking you back to 43 Laurel Glen Drive, right? All three of you get back into the car. You say that Mr. Valley got into the passenger side
Yes.
beside you, and that Mr. De Silva got in the back
Yep.
on the passenger side as well.
Yes.
You drove up, and did you park sort of near the driveway at that point?
No, a little further back. I wasn't ever parked. I was always in drive, just,
Foot on the brake.
yeah.
You weren't expecting anybody to get out of that car and get into a fight, were you?
It wasn't aggressive at that point.
There was no talk in the car as you drove down there about, we're going to get him now.
Objection as to what was said in the car.
I want to strike the last answer, Madam, and form arbitrary. Thank you.
Was there conversation in the car on the way down there?
It was a very brief drive. I don't remember any conversation.
Nothing about what was occurring in the vehicle on the way down there led you to believe that there was about to be a fight, was there? And as you got there, you're in the middle of the street. There's cars parked on both sides, correct?
Yeah.
And you stop the car.
Yep.
You don't put it in park, but you keep it running and you got your foot on the brake. You see Mr. De Silva get out of the car.
Right.
You see Mr. Valley get out of the car. Mr. Valley doesn't have the knife in his hand at that point, does he?
I don't remember what he had in his hand. I just know they both got out of the car and just started walking towards him.
Not in an aggressive way. Not screaming threats at the people that are already in the yard, right? You saw them, you said you were looking over your shoulder, looking out the window, watching them the whole time. How many people were in the lawn?
The same amount, probably about 30 kids.
Your two friends get out and they walk up, right? You can see them approach these 30 kids. Those 30 kids swarm forward to meet them.
Right.
They start getting aggressive with these two kids, right?
I don't remember getting aggressive until someone punched Lito. It was kind of cordial, I guess, initially.
Okay.
Maybe somebody in the crowd screaming or something, but it wasn't a fight at that point.
Could you hear either of your friends screaming anything?
No.
Did you see either of your friends approach them in a fighting posture?
No.
Did you see either of your friends square up with anybody? You just saw Mr. Valley get punched in the face, right?
About 10 seconds, 15 seconds in, yeah. Someone just came and hit him.
Did you see Mr. Valley with his shirt up over his head?
I don't recall that. No.
And you told us that once Mr. Valle got punched in the face, chaos broke out, right?
Right.
You couldn't see Mr. Valle anymore, could you? You couldn't see Mr. De Silva anymore, could you? But you could see bodies moving and rolling around, right? And it looked like 30 people had descended onto 2 people, did it not?
Yeah, I did.
You could see punching and kicking going on, could you not?
I did.
You could see stomping going on, could you not?
Yeah,
You were scared for your friends at that point, were you not?
I was.
Terrified about what was happening to them, right?
I was.
So scared that you didn't even get out of the car, did you?
I wanted to be there just in case they got out so they could get in my car and we could leave.
You didn't want to go get into that scrum, did you?
I felt like I'd be more helpful just as the way to escape rather than jump in. So I stayed in the car.
You didn't know if your friends were going to come out of that fight, did you?
I hope so.
But you didn't know, did you?
No.
You didn't know what was going to happen when 30 took on 2, did you?
No?
That was practically the whole Shelton High School football team, wasn't it?
That's fair to say, I guess.
You were so scared, you didn't want to get out of that car, right?
Objection asked and answered.
Sustained.
Because it was terrifying to watch, was it not?
Objection asked and answered.
Sustained.
At some point, you were able to see Mr. Valle and Mr. De Silva again, correct?
Yes.
Mr. Valle came up to the car, correct?
Yes.
Door opens slightly, correct?
I believe so, yeah.
Interior light comes on because the door is opened, right?
Yep.
In fact, when he came up to that car, his momentum was moving forward towards the car as though he'd been pushed, was it not?
I don't remember that. I just remember.
Did you hear a bump as he hit the car?
I don't remember that.
He opened the door. Could you see his face?
I don't remember what it looked like at that moment. It was kind of real quick.
You didn't see Mr. De Silva anywhere, did you? You could still see that a fight was going on, could you not?
I did.
Could you see what appeared to be flashlights or phone lights at that point?
I believe so, yeah.
When you saw Mr. Valle, but you didn't see Mr. De Silva, you were terrified about what had happened to Mr. De Silva, were you not?
Yeah.
You wondered if he was going to get killed, didn't you?
Yeah.
And then you lost sight of Mr. Valle again as he headed back in towards the fight, right?
Yeah.
You saw Mr. Valle go to the yard, right?
He left my car. I think he went towards the yard.
And at some point, as he got onto the yard, you couldn't see him anymore, could you?
No.
But you could still see that those 30 kids hadn't gone anywhere, right?
Everyone was kind of still scattered along the line, along the lawn.
And then at some point, you saw Mr. De Silva come back to the car.
Yes.
He gets into the car, right?
Right.
And you can see him at that point, right?
I can.
And you told us he's been battered, right?
Yeah.
He looked beaten and bloodied, right? You could tell he had obviously been injured in the course of the fight where you lost track of him, right? You said Mr. Valle got back into the car, into the passenger seat, right? You said he was all distraught, right?
Good.
What was distraught about his face?
It wasn't necessarily his face. He just got in and he was just in shock, I think, and he said, like, oh my fucking God, I think I just stabbed somebody, or I think I just stabbed people, or something along those lines.
He didn't say, man, I just got us payback for what happened, right?
Objection.
Oh,
No, he didn't.
He didn't seem happy about what had happened. He seemed distraught.
Yeah, he looked in shock. Yeah,
Still scared?
yeah, probably.
Objection as to probably, that's calls for speculation.
That's the answer. The question was already asked. I'll allow it. Thank you.
And then you took off down Laurel Glen Drive, right? That's what you told us.
We went to Adams.
Towards Adam.
Towards Adam, yeah.
You hit a cul-de-sac and you told us that Mr. Valley told you to stop the car. And he got out and threw the knife.
Yep.
You could see the knife in his hand?
Yes.
You could see it in his hand. Was it open or closed? Still open?
When he got in the car.
From when he got out of the car?
The car?
He got into the car and he still had the knife open on him, you're saying?
Yes, when he got in the car and said what he said, he had the knife in his hand.
Could you see blood on the knife?
I can't recall seeing any blood on it.
You saw the knife leave his hand and go flipping into the woods?
It was pretty dark.
It was pretty dark, wasn't it?
It was.
How far away from the car did he get in order to throw that knife?
I stepped right outside.
Just right outside the car? In front?
I was angled parallel to the woods, so he just opened the door and stepped right out into it.
He said he got back into the car at that point and didn't say anything.
Yep.
You drove back down to Laurel Glen Drive where the people you had left were still there.
Yes.
And some of those people got into Madison Traficante's car, Mackenzie's sister.
Her sister arrived around the same time we were driving down.
Mr. Valley got into the same vehicle. Tyler gets into the front passenger with you.
Yes.
You had to use Google Maps to get out of there, right? Because you didn't know where you were. And then you went and you met Owen De Silva?
Yep.
Where was that?
At Tyler's house. Tyler's house.
And you said when you saw both Mr. Valley and Mr. De Silva, they were both beat up and bloodied up, right?
Yeah.
But there was no conversation in the car about what had happened. It was just, how are we going to get back at these guys?
That was kind of what was going through my head almost. I'm not sure about Tyler, but that was a conversation we were talking about majority of the time.
And you texted on this group chat, enjoy the hospital stay?
I didn't know the severity of the situation. When Lito told me he stabbed somebody, I just assumed it wasn't anything major, just because people were still texting in the group chat. Like the group chats were still flowing, like spamming after everything happened. So I just assumed that they just jumped us. Lito stabbed maybe someone in the leg or something. That was just my sparkly response. I guess it was. I didn't really know what was going on. I didn't know what happened.
You went home and you talked to your dad, and he said, this is more serious than what you think, son.
Yeah, it was kind of that tone. Yeah.
And when the cops called you on May 15th and said, we'd like to talk to you about this, you told them you weren't going to come in and talk to them, right?
I wasn't on the phone. I believe that's something my dad probably said.
You didn't go in and talk to them, right? You were worried about your involvement in this, right?
Yes.
And you waited 6 months until you got an agreement concerning prosecution in place before you talked to them, right?
Yes, sir.
And in fact, you did that right here in this courthouse, did you not?
Yes.
And after you got that, it's the first time that you talked to anybody about this, right?
That is true.
And you're telling us now today that you gave Mr. Valley the knife before driving everybody back down to 43 Laurel Glen Drive, right?
Yes.
And this prosecution agreement that you have, it's for complete immunity, right?
From the events that happened on that day, yeah.
You can't be prosecuted for anything that happened on May 14th, right?
Not at this time, though.
And those potential things that you might have been prosecuted for could be murder, right?
I was told assault in the first degree or something along those lines.
You would agree that the agreement itself talks about the homicide of James McGrath and the assaults on Thomas Connery Jr., Ryan Hines, and Faison Teal that took place on May 14th, right?
That's correct.
One of the things that you could be prosecuted for would be being an accessory to a murder, right?
I think that's possible.
And could be prosecuted for assaults, correct?
I believe so.
You could be possibly prosecuted for conspiracy to commit those things, correct?
I guess so.
And you've had what's explained to you, what's known as your maximum exposure explained to you, right? That if you were prosecuted for these things and if you were convicted of these things, you could spend your life in prison, correct?
I guess so.
Right? 60 years for accessory to murder, right?
I think so.
20 years for an assault in the first degree, right?
Yep.
You didn't want to tell anybody your involvement in this case until you got that in place, right?
Yeah.
And your understanding is that you have to come in here and testify truthfully in order for this agreement to hold, right?
Yeah.
Your immunity from all those things depends upon who thinking that you testified truthfully.
I think the state.
Not me, right? I don't make that decision, do I? The state's attorney makes that decision, right?
I believe so.
You got to come in here, testify truthfully, or you could find yourself prosecuted for all those things.
I believe so.
And so you gave them a statement on November 2nd, right? And then they told you, you know what? We want to talk to you again. And you talked to them again on November 28th, right?
Yes.
Because they wanted to clarify some things, right?
Yes.
They wanted to clarify the timing of when the knife was exchanged, right?
I believe so.
And they wanted to clarify why your phone had been reset on October 1st, 2022, before you spoke to them, right? Factory reset, right?
No. I had water damage in the phone, and I got a new phone, and I think the iCloud messed up, syncing between my mother's and mine. Our texts are kind of merged. Nothing was deleted, but they couldn't find the group chat. I removed myself from the group chat after the event happened.
So by the time you went and talked to the officers after you'd gotten your immunity agreement in place, your phone had been reset.
It wasn't reset.
It was a new phone altogether?
I got a new phone, but everything was still on it and intact.
That's what they told you? We want to come in and clarify why your phone is everything and intact?
Oh, I didn't respond. I didn't respond to anybody texting me for the first month, 3 weeks to a month after everything happened. But people were texting me, so they assumed, I think, that I was removing messages that I was sending back when I just wasn't responding. So I think they wanted to have me come in and just explain why there weren't any texts on my end. I was advised not to text people.
So, sir, you're coming in here and you're telling us, or trying to tell us, as close to what you told those officers, right?
Yes.
Because you fear if you change any of that, the state's going to think you're not testifying truthfully, right?
There wouldn't be any need to change it. It's all been the truth.
And you're telling us that the knife that you gave to Mr. Valley, right?
After he asked for it, yes.
That was your knife, right?
My knife.
That you kept in the vehicle, right? That you drove these folks back down to this party, right?
Yeah, Tyler and Lito.
Tyler and Lito, right? After you gave them this knife, right?
After I handed it to Lito, yeah.
And now you're telling us that the knife was thrown by Mr. Valley.
Yeah.
That's why we can't find the knife, right?
I would assume so.
Sir, it's not that you needed to get rid of that knife because, again, for 6 months you didn't want to talk to anybody about this, right?
No?
Nothing further. Thank you.
Attorney Joseph.
Jack, counsel just asked you a little bit about the group chat. You indicated on cross-examination that you removed yourself from the group chat. Why did you do that?
I wanted to disassociate myself from everything that happened on that day.
So once you understood the severity of what happened, you got out of the group chat? So what happens when you remove yourself from the group chat on your phone? What happens?
I think it just deletes it off my device, but I think, and it says something in other people's phones, like I've left the group chat.
Left the group chat? So in other words, if you wanted to go back into the group chat, you couldn't do it?
I couldn't unless I was added back into it.
Is that something that is saved on the cloud for some reason, or no? Do you know?
I think it would be.
It would be? Okay. And with regards to, tell me the circumstances surrounding you getting a new phone. Why did you get a new phone?
I think I'd gone to Block Island, or I'd gone somewhere for, like, to just get away, I think, and I'd walked in the waterway. I got water damage. It was fine, but the battery was draining, so I just brought it to Apple. Said I can repair it. It was water damage, so I needed to get a new phone.
And when you got a new phone, did the contents of your old phone, was it saved in the cloud? And
Yeah, there was like a SIM card, and I just used the same one. I'd gotten a new phone. I got 2 new phones. One from my father's coworker right after everything happened because they had taken my phone, the state. So when the state took my phone, I needed a phone, and I couldn't just buy a new one. So I had my dad's friend lend me her phone. So syncing with that phone, I have contacts on my phone right now from her phone still, my mom's phone, on my phone still. So I think merging was kind of a really error filled, I guess. But I got a new phone eventually after the water damage.
so the phone that you had on the night of May 14, 2022, that was seized by the state of Connecticut?
Yeah.
Or Shelton PD, right?
Shelton PD, I think.
And with regards to, we were asked a little bit about going over to 43 Laurel Glen. When you were driving over there, you told people, or at least the discussion in the car, was apparent that you were going there to fight.
Yes.
And what was your understanding about going there to fight? Did you think you were going to fight a couple kids?
Yeah.
It was going to be like a 3-on-3 fight?
That's what I assumed it was.
Right. Now, the fight back at Lazy Brook, that was 3-on-1, right? That was you, Lito, the defendant, and Tyler on Ryan Hines, right?
Yeah.
Right, so that wasn't really a fair fight, but you think you were gonna go to 43 Laurel Glen to kind of hash it out and have a fist fight?
Right.
Were you going there to going to 43 Laurel Glen to use any weapons in fight, or was it gonna be a fist fight?
Fist fight.
And was the defendant in agreement to go there and fight?
Yeah.
And when you got there, you said that people came out of the house and the car surrounded the car, and then you guys eventually got scared, right? And you left and you went down the street, right? And people who didn't want to be involved got out of the car, right?
Yeah, I think everyone got out of the car.
But at some point, when you were down the street, do you know whether or not people from the Shelton crew came down to talk to or confront anybody down the street?
I think they did.
They did, right? And was the defendant out of the car at that point?
Yeah,
And was Tyler out of the car at that point?
he was.
And was there any physical altercation down the street at that point when people were out of the car?
I believe so.
What kind of things were going on? Were people arguing?
I don't remember any arguing at all, any fighting at all.
But at that point, at some point in time, those individuals left. Do you recall them leaving? What do you recall about down the street?
Coming back down the street, and then getting out of the car, and then looking at the damage after I had driven down the street.
And do you recall where the Shelton kids were at that moment in time or no?
I can't recall where they were.
Okay. But there was no physical altercation that took place down near the corner of Laurel Glen and Farmhouse Road? Nobody complaining about, we just got beat up, right? No one said we got beat up? No physical altercation? Did you observe anything? And you indicated that when the defendant asked for the knife, he was more aggressive, more angry with his demeanor. What do you mean by that?
He was just, you could tell he was angry.
Was he mad, pissed off?
Yeah.
Where do you, before you gave him the knife, do you know where it was before you gave it to him?
I think when I had gotten out of the car initially to look at the damage, I just put it down on the, not the center console, but the area right in between it, the radio.
Showing you states 32. So are you talking about this area here?
Yeah.
So it would have been just below the radio area?
Yeah. Just, that's a whole platform right there, so I knew we were right there.
By the way, while we're looking at states 32, in order to drive your car, put it into drive reverses. Is that up here on the
Yeah.
column?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is one of those cars where it has the lower. It's up on the column.
It's
Right?
a lower, that's also a compartment, but it's also like a platform.
But in other words, if you have to drive this car forward or backwards, the gear shifter is on the column.
Yep.
Now, when you indicated that after you got out of the car, you assessed the damage, the defendant asks for the knife, there's this conversation, and you agree to go back down to 43 Laurel Glen?
Yes.
You could have left Laurel Glen at that point, right?
Yeah.
You could have driven the other way? Could you have?
I thought it was a dead end.
Could you have put maybe Tyler's address into your phone and followed Waze or Google Maps and driven out of the area? But you didn't do that. And when you went back down to 43 Laurel Glen, you indicated there was a lot of people in the front yard? Counsel asked you on cross-examination about people swarming everybody, and you indicated that, yeah, look, 30 people were involved. Are you certain that 30 people were fighting during the fight?
No, it just appeared like a lot of people. I would estimate probably 30 people there.
So you're not sure, not everybody was fighting.
I don't think so, but
Were there a lot of people watching?
I couldn't really tell who was fighting and who wasn't, but it was pretty chaotic.
So when counsel asked you about, 30 people were fighting your friends, you can't really tell for sure who was fighting. You just know that there was a lot of people and it was chaotic.
Right. I didn't know who individually was fighting, but I knew that there was a lot of people there.
Right. So when he indicated that it could have been, 15 kids on each person, it could also have been 2 or 3 kids on your friends. You just couldn't see, right?
No, I saw more than 2 or 3.
Right.
Yeah.
But it wasn't all 30.
No, I don't think so.
Now, when you get down to the Adams Drive and the defendant throws the knife, he doesn't say, let's get out of here, let's go?
That's possible, but I don't remember the conversation. Really.
Now, with regards to your immunity agreement that the defense counsel brings up, did the state of Connecticut approach you about your testimony in this case?
I believe so. I think my attorney did.
Your attorney approached us
I think so, yeah.
because you had information for us.
Yep.
And with regards to your exposure in the case, was it explained to you that you could be paroled on certain crimes if you were convicted because of your age?
I believe so.
And why did you withdraw? In your understanding about your agreement is what?
My understanding of the agreement
Of the agreement with the state of Connecticut is what?
is that I gave a detailed explanation on what happened, the truth on what happened, and that I wouldn't be prosecuted for it.
And is that explanation from your perspective about what you remember happened on May 14th of 2022?
Yes.
No further questions?
Any additional comments?
Just briefly.
You were just asked, the state didn't approach you about this prosecution agreement, right?
Right.
Your attorney, I guess, approached them and said, hey, can we get a prosecution agreement here?
I believe so. I think my attorney went to the state.
State's attorney didn't come to you and say, nope, sorry, son, we got to arrest you. We're not giving you an immunity agreement, right?
So,
Objection is what the state's attorney.
Sustained.
State's attorney didn't say, no, we're not, the state's attorney didn't refuse to give you this immunity agreement, did they?
I don't believe so.
No, you signed it, right? In this courthouse, right? Nothing further.
Anything else?
Nothing.
You may step out of the witness box. All right, ladies and gentlemen, the jury yesterday I indicated that it would be a half day today, so we are preparing to adjourn. I'm just going to once again remind you to abide by the rule of jury conduct that I have described to you again at the beginning of the trial and as we've been going through the trial, just highlighting, please try to stay away from media. Also, no conversation with anyone, including each other, about the states. No visiting the scenes that have been discussed or any of the locations that have been discussed, and no conducting independent research or investigation outside of the evidence presented here in the courtroom. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we will be back again for this matter tomorrow. Okay? Thank you. Court stands adjourned.